Donald Trump's somewhat erratic and mercurial leadership seems to be setting the stage for a global economic catastrophe, a disaster, a global recession that could undo the post COVID economic recovery of the entire world. This is, I would reckon, a very ill thought through conflict. Donald Trump seemed to be determined to start this war from the very outset, from the very time that he returned to Washington for his second term. He was hugely emboldened by the success of his operation against Venezuela. With due apologies, Venezuela is a pansy state, more known for its Miss World, Miss Universe beauty pageants than for a record of tenacity of fighting. At least till now. It could change. It could change. The simple fact is that he was determined to do it. He had torpedoed the pact that President Obama and the European states and Russia and China, they'd all signed jointly with Iran to do away with the Iranian nuclear weapons. Iran had agreed to do away with the Iranian nuclear weapons in return for the lifting of the sanction. The first thing that Donald Trump did said it was a very bad deal. It did not do anything about the missiles. It did not do anything about the proxy relationships, and therefore he torpedoed that deal. Then, of course, we had that economic attack on the Iranian currency. The CIA, the Mossad, the MI6 got together to stage a raid on the Iranian currency, which left it badly devalued. $1 almost equaled 150,000 riyals. It was a disaster scenario for the Iranian economy. The aim was to enrage the people, to frustrate the people to an extent that they would rise against their regime. And when they did rise against the regime, at least those people who were responding to the tune propaganda of the Mossad, the CIA, etc., and their colored revolution, attempted colored revolution, that unfortunately for Israel and the United States was foiled by the Russians and the Chinese, who brought in their electronic warfare jammers. About 30,000 to 50,000, there are various estimates of the number of Starlink terminals that had been pushed into Iran to sort of cater for the jamming of the internet and to keep the internet flowing, to keep their orders and instructions flowing to their quislings. And with the jamming of the Starlinks, with the monitoring of the Starlinks, this whole thing collapsed and the Iranian colored revolution failed to take off the ground. In fact, they had planned that there would be an Iranian revolution, street revolution, which would overthrow the regime, and the Americans and the Israelis would come in at the last stage to stage a coup d'etat with their fighter bombers. Just one aircraft carrier was felt sufficient, along with air power, to give the coup d'etat to the Iranian regime. But when the colored revolution failed, in a panic, Netanyahu then spoke to Donald Trump and said that he wasn't ready, that the Iranian regime had not been destabilized, it was fully in control, it had crushed the so-called colored revolution, and to that extent, they were going to fire off their missiles, and Israel was not prepared to stop those missiles, and therefore he asked the Americans to move greater strength and firepower to the Middle East. They wanted at least one more carrier battle group to provide Patriot missile protection, THAAD missile protection, additional air power into the theatre to deal with the Iranian missile strikes. Don't forget that in the campaign last year, 12-day war, Iran had fired about 550 missiles, and it is said, had inflicted about $50 billion worth of damage on Israel. The problem with Israel's strategic problem is very small size, very dense target. So they wanted additional resources. Donald Trump was surprised. He had been going around making statements like, help is coming, we are on the way, just go ahead and kick this regime out. They had sent in the Shah's son, who was supposed to be the new Pahlavi Messiah. Let's not forget the way his father had been thrown out because he was a tyrant of the worst order, right, trying to enforce America's writ in this particular region. But the fact of the matter is that Donald Trump then decided to, send in additional reinforcements as required by, as desired by Netanyahu, and to gain time, he started the pretext of negotiations. He suddenly switched his aims from regime change to that we want Iran not to have nuclear weapons, dismantle the missiles, and stop all support to the proxy. Iran clearly said the only thing we are prepared to negotiate is the nuclear deal, which had already been done earlier, and we are not, repeat, not prepared to discuss the missiles because they are our defensive weapons. We cannot make Iran a helpless, defenseless victim in the face of the American-Israeli combined. No way will any sovereign nation state accept such red lines. So the charade of the negotiations was continued for good 10 days more, and just when they had failed, the Iranians were given hope that maybe this will still work out, right? Jared Kushner and Witkoff, they somehow gave that impression to the Iranians that this deal could still be worked out. So the Iranians took the bait. I thought it was highly it was foolish. They had suffered at the hands of the Americans last time when they had pretended to negotiate and attacked. Second time, if you repeat the same thing again and expect different results, it's a bit of lunacy. But they paid the price for being so over trusting of the United States, and the attack was launched on 28th of February last month, last day of the last month. Operation Lion's Roar, as far as the Israelis are concerned, and epic freedom for as far as the Americans were concerned. About 900 targets were struck inside Iran with a combination of Tomahawk cruise missiles launched from the destroyers and the submarines, the B-2, B-1 bombers taking off from targets from various places in the Middle East, and coming all the way from the United States itself, like last time. And of course the Israeli fighters. So about a total of 900 strikes were launched. The B-2 bombers launched 2,000-pound bombs. The first target they hit was the compound with the office of Ayatollah Khamenei. They had received hint that the entire Iranian top brass had assembled there for a meeting, for a final meeting with the Ayatollah. Why the Ayatollah had not been shifted to underground command posts, despite what they had suffered last year, absolutely beats me. They were a bit too trusting and they paid a price for it. So, the Americans and the Israelis were able to achieve total surprise, tactical surprise. It was not possible to achieve strategic or operational level surprise, for which the Iranians were well prepared. But tactical surprise was achieved by the perfidy of pretending to negotiate and carrying that bluff for almost 10 days, 15 days at a stretch. The problem is that now nobody in the world will ever engage with the Americans in negotiations, because it is now known that it is a standard tactic to just move, gain time to deploy forces and attack. That is what was done. 48 top Iranian military operatives were eliminated in this strike, this decapitating strike. This included Ayatollah Khamenei, this included the defense minister, the army chief, the head of the IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, their missile chiefs, their drone chief, their intelligence chiefs, and a lot of other senior functionaries. Why so many people should have assembled in an open above the ground facility and not in an underground command post actually beats me. Actually beats me, but it was done and they have paid a price for it. But now, this is where disaster has struck. The world will pay a price for this now, not just Iran, not just America, not just Israel, United States, etc. The world will pay a price for this. How so? Let me explain. 1945, Second World War was coming to a close. America had decided to use the bomb to save at least 1 million lives which would be lost if America had to mount an amphibious invasion of Japan, right? Every beach they would fight, etc., etc. So they had decided to use the nuclear bomb. Please bear in mind, the bomb was not used on Tokyo, the political command, military command and control center, because they wanted to leave the leadership intact for somebody to negotiate with, surrender, peace terms, whatever they wanted. They had to have somebody to negotiate. That is why when we are going in for a major campaign, you do not hit the top leadership of the enemy, because if you have to terminate the conflict, then you have to have somebody to talk to, somebody to negotiate with. But here very foolishly they decided that we would repeat Venezuela. The pansy state of Venezuela folded up because they kidnapped Maduro and his wife. I mean, we are still not sure what will happen, because it is Maduro's government which is in place, but the CIA paid massive millions and millions of dollars and bribe and purchased almost half the population of Venezuela, right? But this put Donald Trump and the Pentagon on cloud 9. On cloud 9, they felt this is the new model, bloodless model of waging bloodless, casualty-less wars, and all we have to do is use air power, use naval aviation, capture or kill the top leadership, and the whole nation state will collapse, everybody will surrender, everybody will raise their hands and sing praises of Donald Trump. Hail the new leader, maximum leader Donald Trump would win the day by just kidnapping the enemy top leader or killing him. Simply going ahead and murdering the top leadership of the adversary. So they did that, and they were very hopeful that the next day there would be a surrender ceremony in Tehran possibly, and Donald Trump personally would go to receive the surrender. It didn't quite work out that way. Why? Because the Iranians had suffered a worst leadership hit, command and control hit in June last year. And they had learned their lessons, they had drawn up their contingency plans. The plans were to go decentralized, absolutely decentralized decision making to attack or retaliate. So the 33 IRGC districts, which Iran is divided into 33 IRGC districts, and the missiles are not concentrated in any one place, they are spread through all districts of the IRGC. So the command and control, they had said that in case the top leadership is decapitated, the command and control would be devolved, would be delegated, free for all, to all the 33 IRGC districts who had their own missiles to control. The missiles are located in deep underground cities and in caves and tunnels, from where they, even the factories are underground. So from there the missile launchers are taken out, fire, go back, shoot and scoot. Last time in May 2025, June 2025, the Israelis had hit them hard, and only about 200 Israeli launchers and about 1,500 missiles were left in the Iranian arsenal when the war was brought to a close by a staged series of strikes, Americans pretended to hit the nuclear base from where they had already taken out the enriched uranium at Natanz. The Iranians in turn had said that they hit the base in Qatar Al Udeid base, the largest base, which the Americans had already withdrawn their personnel from. So with this Noora Kushti, this mock strikes, the last campaign was called off because both sides had had enough. Israel had taken heavy punishment, so had Iran taken worse punishment, and both sides decided to call it quit for the time being, thinking that, as Donald Trump said, that the Iranian nuclear capability has been destroyed, eliminated, finished, etc. You see, now they've had to do it again. That's another matter. But the simple fact of the matter is that Iran had already devolved authority to the 33 IRGC districts, and they have, within 1 hour, last year it had taken them 18 hours to retaliate. This time they took 1 hour and they shot off their missiles at the American air bases in Al Qatar, in Abu Dhabi, in Bahrain, in Jordan, in Kuwait and Iraq, also in Saudi Arabia. They hit them all. 9 different countries, 9 American bases were hit very hard, particularly in Dubai. They hit the headquarters of the 5th Fleet, from where plumes of dark smoke kept coming out for 2 days, right? Then they also hit targets in Israel. They used the following, weapon systems for this attack. They have increased the number of their missiles back to 3,000. Some say more than 3,000, up to 5,000. Those are some estimates. But they used the Khyber Shikan solid fuel missiles with a range of 1,500 kilometers, right? Which can maneuver in the terminal phase. It's not a glide toss bomb, but it can maneuver in the terminal phase. Then the Sergil missiles of 2,000 kilometer range, again solid fuel, which require no preparation time and can be fired straight away. And then the Fateh 1, maneuverable re-entry vehicles with about up to 6 warheads, and which can maneuver in the re-entry phase. And simultaneously they decided on a multi-theater campaign to hit the Israel American bases and hit Israel and the American bases. And the next night, they fired about 70 missiles initially within an hour, and then that night they fired about 200 plus more missiles onto Israel, onto the American bases. They focused much harder on the American bases because the thinking was that the air defense shield in Israel is on a very restricted area and very dense, layered. It's one of the densest air defense shields anywhere in the world in such a restricted space. So it is quite lethal. They have been achieving kill rates of 97 to 98% of incoming missiles. So they didn't use their best missiles to start with. They did not use their best missiles to start with. They have reserved them, that once the Israelis and the Americans have expended their interceptors, their Patriots, their THAADs, their Aegis missiles, etc., then they launch these missiles. Please don't forget that to intercept every single Iranian missile incoming, the Americans have to use minimum 2 shots of the Patriot or of the THAAD, and even for the drones. So, and quite obviously, when you are under attack, you tend to be under tension and you tend to fire off, indiscriminately. So there is very heavy expenditure of these interceptor missiles. The production capability of the United States annually is about 600 to 800 interceptors of the Patriot and about 200 plus of the THAAD. They have already given so many to Ukraine, so many to Israel, and the expenditure has been heavy, the stocks are low. This is one of the things that Dan Kane, the American chairman, Joint Chiefs of Staff, had warned Donald Trump against, that it would have a negative impact on our own arsenals and stockpiles of interceptor missiles and also precision guided munitions, which are in short supply. He'd also warned Donald Trump that we could suffer casualties. The Americans have already accepted that they have lost 3 servicemen killed in Kuwait and about 5 to 9 wounded. There are various figures. I think a lot is being hidden. Subsequently, perhaps more will come out, given the precision of the Iranian strikes. They've been very, very precise. They've been hitting their targets more or less bang on, because they are no longer dependent upon the GPS, which can be spoofed, which can be jammed, but they are depending upon the Bidiao Chinese satellite-based GPS. So their accuracy levels are much better than last time. Much better than last time. They are continuing to fire. There seems to be a kind of a desperation. America was hoping that with 48 top leaders struck down, decapitated, they were hoping, Witkoff was saying, why aren't they capitulating? Why aren't they surrendering in droves? Like, why aren't they folding up like Venezuela folded up? Well, Venezuela is famous only for beauty pageants, Miss World, Miss Universe competitions. So, I mean, unfortunately, they don't have a fighting history. It could change. It could change now. But that still remains to be seen. But Iran is a different cup of tea. Look at the history of those people. It's a civilizational state. And the Shias are known to fight losing battles till the bitter end. From the Karbala war onwards, they have been fighting impossible odds, and yet they have decided to fight and get martyrdom. It's a very big component of their self-definition myths. The simple fact is that they fought Iraq war for 8 years. 8 years they fought. Hundreds and thousands of casualties, over 1 billion casualties in the south. They did not flinch. So on what basis was Donald Trump basing the hope that you kill 46 and the rest of Iran will be in surrender mode? It's not happened. And the very fact that their top imam, their Khamenei, was killed, was taken out, they announced it, and that has made the Iranian people rally around the flag. Yes, the Iranian peoples came out on the street. Almost about 2 million, 3 million, 4 million people were out on the streets. But they came out in support of the Iranian regime, not against it. And therefore, there was consternation in Washington, there was consternation in Israel, and they were saying it's up to the Iranian people now or never, take your chance at freedom, you come out and you fight. We are not going to put boots on the ground. Without putting boots on the ground, sir, you please take it from me, I am also a pretty old soldier. I mean, I may have my shortcoming, but no regime change is possible unless boots are put on the ground. Americans were hoping that the Iranian population will do the heavy lifting. They will take out the Iranian regime of the Ayatollahs. It's not happened. Number one. Number two, it's unlikely to happen. When you attack a country, the people rally around the flag. I mean, people have that basic decency. They are not all sold out to the CIA and the Mossad. The proportion is, yes, there are sold out people everywhere. But the bulk of the Iranian people are fully backing their regime, their Ayatollah. And not only that, in Muslim countries all over the globe, including in India, we have had demonstrations in Srinagar, Bandipur, in Lucknow, in various places. In Pakistan, the Shia crowds have attacked the American consulate in Karachi. The Marine Guards had to open fire headshots to save the American consulate. The Pakistani police did nothing. Subsequently, they came up and for the record, they shot 9 or 10 local people. We don't know how many the Marine Guards killed and how many the Pakistani police killed. Normally, the practice is that the police comes in earlier, puts barricades, put this, keeps the crowd at bay. Nothing was done. They were allowed to attack. They were allowed to attack. And the crowning glory is that Pakistan has given its airspace to the Americans to attack Iran. They have provided weapons to the Baluch rebels in Sistan, Baluchistan inside Iran, which the CIA had provided, they had supplied. Iran is saying that the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps is saying we are aware of what the Pakistanis are doing and we will retaliate. Hum badla lenge, intakam lenge. You see, the simple fact is that regime change seems a chimerical dream, pipe dream, without putting on the ground. And if you want to put boots on the ground, at least 500,000 troops would be required. A country the size of Iran, equivalent of Europe in size, 90 million people, 91 million population, mountainous, rugged terrain, even 1,000,000 troops would fall short. And you could get stuck well and proper like in Iraq or in Afghanistan for 10, 20 years or more. And Donald Trump has learned that lesson, that he is not going to put boots on the ground anywhere. Anywhere. He wants quick in, quick out, smart victories, capture Maduro, capture his wife, and the whole country collapses, is on there lying prone on the ground, hailing Donald Trump's, the new Führer, etc., etc. You see, but the simple fact is that it hasn't worked. Because they delegated command, before they had catered for this contingency, the Iranian retaliation has been fierce, it has been fairly lethal and effective. And the better missiles have been reserved for the end. So if they have 3,000 missiles, 5,000 missiles, they could go on for 5-10 days more, depending on the rate at which they fire. They could continue this punishment, extract a fairly severe price. They have attacked the Saudi Arabian refinery. They have attacked civilian areas in Dubai, next to Burj Khalifa. The entire prosperity of UAE was premised on the fact it was so safe, so secure, and so beautiful, so well constructed. You see, the entire world's corporate sectors were shifting here from places as far away as New York and Russia and Europe. This was the new Mecca haven of the corporate sector. Microsoft, etc., all offices are there, but also CIA offices, and those are what Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps has hit. And so the entire region has been struck. Israel has been struck, and yesterday they were attacked with a hypersonic missile. It hit an underground bunker under a synagogue, and because of the very speed, terminal velocity, it was able to penetrate, killed 8 or 9 on the spot, and about 30 odd are supposed to have been, they said 10, but some people are saying 30 odd have been wounded. And about 550 plus have been wounded in Israel already. 550 have been killed in Iran and about 700 wounded. That was the score this morning. This included about 50 to 100 girls in a particular school. It is a very gruesome thing that we have gotten into, but the worst part of it is this. The Iranians have hit 6 oil carriers in the Gulf. One has been put on fire and has already sunk. They have 5,000 to 6,000 naval mines, with the help of which they can blockade the Straits of Hormuz. They have already declared the straits as closed. Houthis have declared the Red Sea as closed. Right? So, therefore, the very fact that the straits have been closed, the prices of Brent crude have shot up from $60 a barrel to $80 plus a barrel. Depending on how long the Straits of Hormuz remain closed, the price of oil could shift to $100 a barrel. When you get the price of oil at $100 a barrel, then you have to be very clear of the fact that at $100 a barrel, the rate of inflation in the United States will go up from 2.4% inflation to 4.5%. And if the cost of oil goes up to $130 a barrel, it will go up to 6% rate of inflation in the United States, which could torpedo the American economy. The price of oil per gallon is about $3 per gallon now. It could go up to $7 to $8 per gallon, right? The ship oil carrier, supply line, oil carrier Skylight has already been hit and sunk. Two more have been hit. Yesterday, the Iranians fired 4 missiles on the American aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln. They said it has hit, but the Americans are saying that they were able to intercept all the missiles. There was reports in the media that the Iranians had fired these missiles as a probing salvo, so that they could test the reactions. Their telemetry could record all the reactions of the Americans, and based upon that, they'd fine-tune their profile of attack. Amazingly, we learned today morning that the American aircraft carrier that is Abraham Lincoln, had already been taken out of the Gulf of Hormuz, the restricted waters, and put into the Gulf of Oman. And now I believe it has come out and retreated well into the Arabian Sea. That's quite a loss of face if the American aircraft carrier has to be on the run in the face of rockets fired by, missiles fired by Iran. Even if one aircraft carrier, either the Abraham Lincoln or the Ford, Gerald Ford, is hit, it has 5,000 sailors. Even if half of them are casualties, my God, can you imagine the impact of so many body bags back home in the United States? If there's one thing the American public hates, it is body bags. You know what body bags from Vietnam, about 50,000 of them, had done to the Nixon presidency? Body bags are the last thing Donald Trump would want in a midterm election year. Already there are 3 body bags, and it doesn't seem to be the end. 3 fighters have been shot down. Initially, it was being speculated that possibly the Russian manpads had been used by the Shiite militias to get them down. Now it is being said that the Kuwaitis themselves mistakenly have shot them down. I mean, it's an amazing story, but there seems to be chaos. It is already disintegrating into chaos. And now Donald Trump has said that minimum 4 to 8 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks, 8 weeks is what this campaign could take. He was looking for a quick in, quick out campaign. But people in the United States are saying that he has been pressurized by Iran, by the Zionist lobby in the United States, who are incidentally the bulk donors for Donald Trump's campaign. So he knows which side his bread is buttered on, and so do the senators and the congressmen. So if just to keep the Epstein files out of the headlines, he has agreed to this kind of a strike, I mean, it bodes ill for America. It bodes ill for the global economy. If the price of oil goes up to $130 a barrel, we are all going to hit a recession. The post-COVID recovery will be torpedoed. 60% of India's natural gas comes from the Gulf, from the Straits of Hormuz. 50% of our oil comes from there. We will have to go towards Russia. And America has said it will put 25% tariffs. So 25% tariffs or no tariffs, we'll have to buy oil from Russia. We have no option. So all of us who are unduly enamored of Donald Trump and the American relationship will have to be forced to take second thoughts or have second thoughts. Things are looking bad. Things are looking ugly. There is a saying that a certain species of people rush in where angels fear to tread. With so much of brain power at the command of the United States, we can't have a president who refuses to listen to his own think tanks, to his own chairman, joint chiefs of staff, who had clearly spelt out the things for him. Autocratic campaign, autocratic leaderships may look very impressive as they crack the whip. But when you muffle all voices of dissent, all sane disagreements, all second thoughts, well-meant advice, well, then this is what you will end up with. This is what you will end up with. America, if this goes south, could suffer huge reputational damage. I would suggest that wisdom lies in a quick ceasefire, quick disengagement before the losses, economic punishment for the rest of the globe becomes too serious. The European economies, Asian economies, American economy will all suffer. Will all suffer if there is a global recession caused by the second, third, or this would be almost the fourth oil shock. The fourth oil shock. The globe can't afford it. Our stock markets are, crashing. Stock markets in America, in Europe, in Japan, etc., they are all hitting. They are going down, down, down in free fall. The price of Brent crude is up, up, up into the stratosphere, and that bodes ill for the global economy and the global good. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.